Hi, hello. Uh, Welcome back if we have practiced before. Um, and welcome in general if we never have. Uh, I am Blair. I use they, he pronouns. But my she is also my she. Um, and I have been practicing for quite some time now. Um, but I also felt called to move us through um, something particularly important that is Patanjali's Pancha Klesha. And you may look it up to find many different things. Five obstacles is often what is translated to, Pancha being the five. But Klesha, it seems, can be more closely translated to afflictions or to pain. And with pain specifically, I think um, through the eyes of somebody who, uh, from the surface of it, does not seem to be afraid of it, and who has been engaged in a ritual or spiritual context, and who can see it through an indigenous eye. I hum with the perspective that pain is perhaps a Western concept. And so being able to move through these things in a safe and knowing and curious container, so that we can perhaps relieve suffering by an active decolonization of our body, of our mind, of our ideas. And so, with that, we'll be building on movements from decolonizing your mind. We'll be building on movements from decolonizing your mind in that course, but repeating them throughout so you can jump in either here or there. Um, and so, with that, as I said, I'm Blair. Uh, I am Telegi, Asiki, Choctaw, and Latin indigenous. So many weaving stories and traumas, yes. And also, we are practicing on native land, but also on burial grounds, also on battlegrounds, also on earth that is damp with the blood of war. And so, with that, we'll open the container with acknowledgement to the land, and acknowledgement to all of those spirits, and acknowledgement to all of that pain. Um, this is Ho Chunk land. This is Bodewatmik land. This is Mishkama land. This is Inukba land, Kaskaskia Kaham land. This is beyond Kikiasik land. This is Wa'a Yatanam land. This is Biwa Newa land. This is Tamaroa land. This is Cahokia land. This is Japusa land. This is Tapaura land. This is Gora Kumbanan land. This is Moinguena land. This is Miamia land. This is the land of the people that have passed before us. This is the land of the bones that are buried here, and of the bones that have been taken from here or hidden from here. Selok, Woteha, Cheneka, Yoke, Yulstana. And so we honor our ancestors through healing now. Through healing now, and through moving through our own ignorance, our own aversion, and fearlessly facing our pain. And fearlessly facing our pain by building the sense of self needed to even understand fearlessness in a world such as this. And so we move through avidya first, because I'm gonna break this down so that it's digestible, and so that it becomes something that we can move through more fluidly. Um, Very much visually, I think these energies move back and forth very rapidly. In the Decolonize Your Mind course, we talk about the mind fire. And these do have their own elemental properties, but I feel like much more weight and much more fire to it for sure, and I think can all sensorily be understood as well. So first we will go through avidya, and that can be your ignorance, but also your knowing, because these are dichotomous as well. There are two sides to this coin, which is also why these things are so fluctuating. Like the winds of change, like the rivers flow, like memories oscillate, and surround and conspire. And so with our ignorance and our knowing, what I also think is very important to understand is how those things can influence each other, but also what happens when those things are both um, maybe so at odds with each other that they seem to cancel each other out. Those moments where we don't know. And that is also our curiosity for the moment, our curiosity for ourselves, and our curiosity of what is possible and what we are capable of. Um, Sometimes that is more surprising than others. And I've heard a lot recently, just in conversations around me, that I didn't think it was possible, and here we are. And exactly that, because our knowing got too comfortable, that our ignorance prevailed, and so we keep those things in a clarifying balance that allows for knowledge to more easily pour in. Um, and so I think those things are also very superficial. I think that's where we get this see to believe idea. I think that has a lot to do with our perceptions or misperceptions of reality, what is and what is not, what is real and what is, lowercase real, platonic conception and not. Um, and reality is very much a flowing and fluctuating thing, sure enough, um, but also very much our relationship to self and other. Our ignorance and our knowingness can often be a brick wall to communication, to bonding, to relationship, um, and to right relationship. And if we have ignorance with people, how can we better facilitate fertile grounds for ignorant for knowingness, and trust in those relationships with even the small things, not just people. um, I think that comes very much so with alignment and integrity and engaging with your definitions. Define your key terms, your definitions of reality. What does love mean, look like, feel to you? What does, knowing or intuition, what do these concepts ultimately equate? In my Anatomy of a Truth video, I go through etymology of definitions of this, and what does knowing or love even sound like in your language? Beyond the intellectualization of it, where do you feel them, and how does that resonate? Very much just learning things in learning things in the tonalities that they were meant to be in, um, elevates the experience of it and expands the awareness of it. So get very curious about where these things came from and how they came to be. Get very curious about what they might sound like if you didn't know what they'd sound like, and see what comes through you. Um, I think beyond the feeling of it, we can see it to believe it, because that exists in the way we intellectually um, digest information as a whole, rhetorically or otherwise, but also in linguistics, in the way um, language has influenced our awareness, and the ways we can wrap our minds or our hands around anything at all. And I say hands because it's something that you will understand, but ultimately English has only given us the ability to touch and not to actually feel these things. I think that's where the world gets confused with what is uh, owning and ownership and what is union. What can I own of this? This is where we get appropriation. What can I own of this, rather than what can I weave into my life so that I live a life more closely in line with these principles that I now understand to be something and embody and can embody. Um, and that's where we get mixed up. And that's maybe where we get mixed up and lose sense of our direction. And perhaps again in this idea of what we know and what we do not. And perhaps the authenticity of being in what you know is really being able to hold space for that which you do not, which is also perhaps a key point in the ways in which we move through suffering and the ways in which we move through pain, whether it's painful in the sense of anticipatory and expecting, or whether it is an allowance for ease, and an allowance to expand, much like a needle moves through the flesh, or much like the muscles lengthen in relaxation. I think it's also something you can see for yourself, in the way geometry informs and shows proof of relations. And it's something that is very much applicable again and again and again. Um, all of this does encompass an idea of self knowing, but not just self knowing, self dreaming. Beyond what you know of yourself, what are you capable of? Again, what are the possibilities of potentiality that exists in any situation, that exist beyond knowing and that are beyond the constraints of ignorance. And so, with that, we'll move through something that I think is very foundational, and we'll see if it grows. Because we will know a lot of this already, but we also can adjust to how we want to fit into it and what aligns or excites or ultimately gets left behind. You don't have to say it like this. You can say it however you'd like. Maybe you like your legs fully stretched out. Maybe you're just comfortable in a traditional sit. However it is, you find yourself in whatever space it is that you are in, mat or none, room or none. We know we are here, and we know everything else can change. We will open with 3 almonds together and move from here. Take a deep breath in. Um, 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 allow the vibrations of my voice or yours, pleasant humming, strum through your body like the little flesh drum that we are. We're going to tuck our legs underneath us. And perhaps that is not a happy place for you. Lucky me, got a blanket or a pillow or whatever, and you can put it in between your knees or under your knees. Cool thing about a blanket, you can do both. Or you can stay where you were if knees is just not a fun place for you. Do we need to move? We don't need to move. We don't. We're gonna stay here. Either way, we're folding. So if you stay here, dope. If you do the blanket thing, dope. Either way, we're gonna fold, but we're gonna carry all of that energy, like magnetism on the air, into our palms, up on an inhale, And exhale, bring the palms behind the head, just so that we open up the shoulders and feel how it realigns the hips. Release and bring the palms back to the chest. Party on. What that would look like the opposite way. Here we go. Here we go. I've got a nice cushion underneath my knees, just underneath my knees, honestly, even, so that my shins are supported, and then bunched up underneath my calves so that my butt is supported on my heels, and so there's not a lot of pressure. Maybe even there's like a little bit of massage action going on in the shins, right? Tough little spot. Lots of fascia there, just calcifying often. We carry up the magnetism of the energy, meet the palms in the heart, and push it up like a laser beam into the sky. Inhale, and on the exhale, drive your palms just behind your head. And maybe they don't go super far down. Maybe we're here, party on. It looks really pretty. And we can, if we are just here, maybe we can just direct the elbows a little farther back. You can also take this opportunity to feel into the lengthening of the entirety of your side body, lengthening your breath even, and really expanding in the rib cage. Rather than depth, you can look for expansion and widening in the elbows, and find a comfortable place there to grow. Following an exhale, bringing your hands back down to meet your heart and your center. We'll take a deep breath in and draw the fingertips and the gaze forward in front of you, as if you're reaching as far past you as you can, rounding the shoulders, perhaps reaching and gazing through the wall, through the alignment in your fingertips, catching the light. Rounding the shoulder blades, separating the shoulder blades, rounding the spine. Bringing our gaze to the pit of our palms, the space between our fingers. And exhaling, reaching for the ground, finding rest on our elbows, bringing our gaze to the ground, perhaps even our third eye. I'm going to inhale here, and exhale, bring the eyes to the tip of the nose, to the tip of the toes. Inhale, roll the neck and the spine up, dragging the fingers down and around to the toes. Trace the body up gracefully and find your palms at heart center again. Now if you continue to do this seated, you don't have to fold hardcore. Again, meet your elbows into the floor. You only want to go where it is, you only want to go where your body is leading you, and your body is not leading you into the kind of pain that is going to hurt you. Trust. You inhale, carry the magnetism out of the air, up into the palms. Palms meet at heart center. Exhale. Inhale, push the palms up like a laser beam into the sky, pressing your fingers and palms together. And exhale, draw the bottom of your palms to the back of your head, to wherever is a comfortable point for you. We inhale, finding lengthening in the elbows, widening in the chest, and exhale. Release your palms. Inhale, find them back at your heart center. And exhale, release, allowing the warmth that was broken up in your shoulder blades to trickle down into your fingertips. You feel it too, yes. I'm going to inhale, drive the fingertips in front of us while rounding the shoulder blades, separating the shoulder blades, rounding the spine. Bringing our gaze to the pit of our palms, the space between our fingers. And exhaling, reaching for the ground, finding rest on our elbows, bringing our gaze to the ground, perhaps even our third eye. I'm going to inhale here and exhale, bring the eyes to the tip of the nose, to the tip of the toes. Inhale, roll the neck and the spine up, dragging the fingers down and around to the toes. You inhale, carry the magnetism of the air up into the palms. Palms meet at heart center. Exhale. Inhale, push the palms up like a laser beam into the sky, pressing your fingers and palms together. And exhale, draw the bottom of your palms to the back of your head. Inhale, finding lengthening in the elbows, widening in the chest, and exhale. You can release your palms. Inhale, find them back at your heart center. I'm going to inhale, drive the fingertips in front of us while rounding the shoulder blades, separating the shoulder blades, rounding the spine. Bringing our gaze to the pit of our palms, the space between our fingers. And exhaling, reaching for the ground, finding rest on our elbows, bringing our gaze to the ground, perhaps even our third eye. I'm going to inhale here and exhale, bring the eyes to the tip of the nose, to the tip of the toes. Inhale, smooth as butter, and drag our fingers to our heels and up to an Anjali Mudra yet again. Beautiful. Feels good, doesn't it? And so much of it is also just letting your body talk. Can see that we are moving, but we must feel through kinesthetic sense. Much like we cannot just intellectualize or create logic around everything. That is, I think, a form of compartmentalization that has turned into a prison for our own minds and our own bodies, and by proxy, the earth. And so we inhale, and we exhale, and send love to the earth to rewrite To rewrite the wrongs, may we rewrite them themselves within us. The blanket may go, we find ourselves on all fours. We go the opposite direction than we did in Decolonize Your Mind, because we were learning, then here we are unwriting. The cool thing about these realms of fives is the way they also relate to the circle. I think is also the ways in which we can cleanse and grow in ritual. And so we started from the south, we find the east. Don't freak out now, you are not lost, but consider the directions of your attention. This is also the fun part about not knowing and knowing. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. The worry, the discontent, the unsure, the not knowing. Maybe you did know. Maybe you're very proud. Maybe you know because of something else. Like the street you're on, direction of the sun. Dope. That's an awesome way that you just found out that you actually can trust yourself in a new place. A new place being here, new experience, right? Inhale, raise your chest to the eastern wall. Raise your chin, raise your eyes, raise your nose. Perhaps this is the position of the fool. Eager and active. Sometimes even when unsure. But does it say curious? We lengthen the tailbone to our western wall, like a string pulling us across both, one that we intend to walk. And we exhale, bend our elbows back, stay on your knees, and bring your chest to the ground, and bring your chest and chin to the ground. You can stay on your toes and just find rhythm and release in your lower back. Lengthening more so than compacting. Where does it feel elongated? How does that affect your breath? Does pressing into your palms relieve that sensation? Or compact it or lengthen it. If you press into your palms and point your tailbone toward your heels, you will find a longer breath that actually makes everything more possible. And we'll exhale, straighten the knees and the legs out. Keep the palms pressed into the mat. Point your toes toward your western wall. Aware of where you're at and where you are going. Your gaze far beyond in front of you. Perhaps there's, much like me, plenty to look at. Perhaps there's nothing but a crack on the wall. I wonder what it's behind. Here is also a lovely place to point the tailbone toward the heels and toward that western wall. Find elongation in the spine and draw your gaze and nose toward the ground, feeling the heat of the spine rise up. The question is not whether fire is good or bad. I urge you to define what that means to you. The question is what we do with it. And we're going to tuck our toes, press into our palms, find ourselves back on our knees, with toes curled and pressing into your palms so that you feel your shoulders actively a part of you. And press into the toes and draw the gaze up and between the space in between your legs, perhaps more toward where the western wall meets the ceiling. Maintaining length in the spine and active participation in the shoulders. We exhale and we bring our knees back to the ground. Note what it felt like to collapse into yourself on an exhale. Note what it feels like to rise into yourself on an inhale. And with that being said, we can inhale, widen the gait, and exhale, drag a singular leg forward, in between the hands preferably, comfortably, safely. With that being said, we inhale, we widen the gate of the shoulders, rounding the hips so that we can exhale and drag a knee and drag a foot forward to help brace us for the next movement, much like collecting resources, collecting knowledge to align a geometric proof. This is also a stable structure that can be informed by the geometry of your body. It's a great reason to get comfortable looking at yourself, to investigate the geometries, so that one can adjust. From here, and a stable point, we find comfort in the hips. Are they aligned? Do they feel flat? Do we need to adjust so that there's comfort anywhere? Do we need to bolster so that our knees are not suffering on the ground? Is this something where the legs do not need to play a part for us and we can follow along with the breath? We inhale, finding square and stability in the hips. You can do that even if you're in a chair and just listening to me. We'll raise the hands above our heads on that inhale, and on our exhale we can collect the palms and bring them down and back behind the head. If you do find yourself balancing in this way, then we light up the toes, we light up the heel, we strengthen the structure where we find wobbling. Again, collecting information, collecting resources, and that is also understanding that we do not know everything. Exhale, release the shoulders, send that knowingness in humble gratitude back to the ground. And exhale, send that foot back to its chamber as well. We inhale, we expand the gait, and we exhale, drag a singular foot or knee forward so that we have a clever bolster, and find comfort levels within this. Again, use what resources you have around you. Or we find a square in the hips, we follow the breath, and we bring the hands above the head. Inhale, find length and expression in the chest. Exhale, find the palms neatly tucked behind the head. Perhaps there's more widening here than you were used to in the beginning. It is how knowledge tends to unfold. Inhale, release to the sky, and exhale, send that knowing and humble gratitude to the ground. Inhale, and exhale, send that foot to the chamber, dear. We inhale, Stable hands and knees, and we pull the elbows back, drive into the palms of the hands, drop the drop the chest to the mat with the chin. Draw the tailbone to the western wall, draw the gaze through the eastern wall. And exhale, you can roll the toes, lengthen the legs, continuing to be a tethered string from east to west. Perhaps drawing the eyes all the way to the top of the eyelids to consider the other perspective. And tuck the toes, roll the eyes into the cheekbones, sending the hips back. Perhaps this is a moment where again send the eyes into the cheekbones, drive into the palms. Your toes are still curled. Perhaps you feel called to send the hips to the sky and meet us back here on our knees. You can draw the nose in toward the chest, allowing the eyes to continue into the cheekbones, spiraling into itself, changing perspective as we know it. And we exhale, opening the eyes, finding equilibrium. We inhale, we open the gate, and exhale, drag a knee forward so that we can find stability. Inhale with stable frame, we draw the palms up and toward the sky. Exhale, draw the knee of the palms behind the head. Inhale, finding the fingertips to the sky, and exhale, bringing all of that knowing humbly back to the earth. Inhale, find equilibrium and stability, and we exhale, chamber that foot. Inhale, press into the palms, open the gate. Exhale, bend a knee, drag a foot forward. Inhale, instability and trigness of structure. We draw palms and the fingers toward the sky. Exhale, palms and their meet behind the head. Inhale, the fingertips meet toward the sky again. And exhale, we bring that knowing humbly back to the earth. Inhale with gratitude and recognition of all that we do not know and cannot be known, even all the beautiful things in the world cannot all be held or seen at the same time. And we exhale, chamber our foot. We press into the palms, activate the shoulders, draw the elbows back, bring the chest and the chin to the ground. Drawing the eyes up and through the eastern wall, the tailbone to the west. And exhale, tuck the toes, draw the legs fully back, pressing the palms into the ground. and keeping our gaze square into the east. One of my favorite things to do here, to close a cycle of 3 or 5, and before greeting a new direction, is acknowledging the antithesis or the opposition. In which case, that's often where we hold a lot of stress and trauma in our neck. That often can result in tension and coagulation that restrains us from even being able to turn. If you've seen Zoolander, the ambi turner. In which case, so from here, walk our palms or walk our fingertips to the top of the mat. Shoulder, elbows are in line with about nipple area. And I can take my hands and pow pow, touch the side, make sure if I need them closer together so that my shoulders feel more supported than anything, right? See how there's more height in that? So I found a good spot. I'm going to bring my palms out, and we're going to press into those forearms so that my shoulders feel activated, and so that I don't feel like I'm dumping into them. That may also mean, again, tucking the tailbone, putting a little pressure into that pubic bone. Perhaps then is all the more need for a towel. You press into the elbows, activate the shoulders, get some length. You can tuck the tailbone or lengthen the tailbone, round it toward the heels again, creating a little bit more length and in that movement and ability in your shoulders as well. With that, I'll draw my eyes to the tip of my nose, draw my nose all the way to the right. My eyes can go past my nose. I'm going to bring my gaze to the farthest thing behind me. Perhaps that's my heel, perhaps that's my toe, perhaps that's my booty cheek. But I'm going to bring my mind's eye sight as well to wherever that restraint is, and whatever it is the last thing that I can see. And understand where it is and how it is that my gaze shudders or flutters or draws back to anything, so that I can continue to understand, to expand those horizons. And it is really intense, so when you've had enough, or you feel like your shoulders are starting to give way or cascade into it, and we draw our eyes directly to the front, and we can walk our palms back to find release. And maybe shake them out so that whatever tension was there can find restoration elsewhere, instead of coagulating our perspective. Both perspectives. In due diligence, we walk our palms back up to the top of the mat, find the positioning that we found earlier, or just if need be. We collect our heels so that our hips aren't splayed out, so that we're not hurting our knees. Even though I forget that all of the time. It's funny how many things we can focus on at once. We find ourselves in our comfortable and familiar positioning. Ground through our palms, ground through our elbows, activate the shoulders, draw the heels and the toes even into activation so that the knees and the hips stay in integrity. And we draw the gaze down the nose and draw the gaze in a semicircle to the farthest thing that you can see behind you. Perhaps you feel lagging or sort of compensation or sort of giving. This
a perfect reminder to maybe the gaze shifts, but we drive into our elbows and we correct the gaze to find an object again behind us. I like to think my big toe, because it's just in view but also out of view. I think muscle memory wise, your body acknowledges the big toe, whether or not it's there. And we draw the gaze back to center, and we draw the palms back and behind us. Draw the palms proximal to our stomach or hip area, and press into them to then find ourselves back on all fours. We're going to find ourselves on all fours. You can press into your palms, send your booty back to the opposite end of the mat, maybe farther away from what you thought you knew, but still in safe space. We can take a breath here, allowing our inhale to absorb and understand and calibrate with all of the information that our body inputs. And exhale, make space for understanding beyond initial programming. From that comfortable seat and from that stable breath, we're just going to carry our feet out in front of us if they are not already, as part of our comfortable seat. With your feet wherever they are in front of you, we're going to bring them in line with your hips and your knees, so that when you are looking down, you see all of these parts of you in front of you, unbelievably so. We're going to bring those feet in front of you and plant our palms at our hips. And true to our trigness, we're going to send the hips and the knees toward the sky, flattening our superficial surface at the top and drawing the inner thighs in toward each other and the knees in toward each other so as to elevate that stability. So we'll take a deep breath in and exhale any weight that we think will hold us back on the way up. And inhale, send the hips and knees up toward the sky, pressing into the palms and drawing the knees and inner thighs together. Perhaps the gaze rolls into the forehead so as to further stabilize your structure. And exhale, send the hips down and back to your palms to meet the mat. We're going to take that left foot, we're going to tuck it underneath this beautiful triangle of our stable right foot and send our energy up toward that left knee. We're not even putting pressure on the knee because we've got so many other stable points, right? But we can allow that to send us to a sit. Perhaps you have this level of squat capability, and that is great for the hips. But whether or not we are there, a really great place to also acknowledge this with this kind of stability. From here, we're just going to grab the bottom of the foot and allow for stable articulation in the hips. So wrap your arm around your knee and hug your hip in tighter to you. The same will be said of our opposite leg, where we grab the bottom of our foot, allow for some stable articulation, And then hug that knee and draw it in toward the body, allowing the trigness of our structure to really have its full stability. Allowing the trigness of our structure to really take form. We can place a hand behind us and a place in front of us, press into the palm behind us, press into the hand in front of us, and find ourselves in a bent over position. Your feet are stable and pointing forward to your northern direction. Your knees are slightly bent and ready for anything. Your hips are stable and ready for anything. And we're just going to find fluid movement back and forth in between both of these stable structures. This is the moment where rigidity also finds ease. What I also enjoy doing with this is in Hartson Anjali Mudra, as you find yourself leaning into one direction, press both palms out and to the opposite wall. So if I'm leaning into my left knee, I'm going to press both palms toward my left side and draw my gaze to the right. Bring them back together and send energy and weight into the right knee. Send the palms over to the right and draw my chin, gaze, and nose to the left. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. A way to exercise the truth in our pride and the truth in our knowledge of self is also in our fluidity of it. So I often use this direction as a way to synthesize. And when I have found a good rhythm and a good structure, we draw the feet, because typically I would be here and we're going west to close. So we'll take a deep breath in and exhale and inhale, draw energy to center, dragging the feet toward the west end of the mat. We'll bring our palms and gaze up and toward the sky. And exhale, bring your right palm and gaze to the east behind you. Again, shifting perspective. Keep the knees soft so we are not too rigid in this contortion. And acknowledge where you can find fullness in the breath and restructuring in your stability. Inhale, draw the palm down and sweep the air and energy back up and toward you. And exhale, stabilize, equalize with all of that knowledge. Inhale, draw the palms up and toward the sky. Exhale, draw the left palm and gaze to the wall behind you. Inhale, find stability in your knees. Adjust your hips and shoulders that they should stay integral and forward despite considerations. And exhale, draw the palm down, sweeping all of that energy up and toward your other palm for meeting an equilibrium. We'll inhale, draw that energy together toward the sky. And exhale, sweep it all down toward the ground, bending into the knees, bringing the sacrum to the floor. We'll hug the knees, grab the big toes, and allow the warmth of our spine to roll onto the ground. Again, perhaps shifting the angles we need, right, for that. And then from here, you can just use your big toes as steering wheels to gyrate your hips into the ground, utilizing the earth as a gauze, as a massage for the knowledge that we keep, for the knowledge that we hold, for the knowledge that we remember, and the knowledge that we've been, and for the knowledge that we have forgotten, that we are in the process of remembering, for the knowledge that our body screams, and for the knowledge that we often ignore. May we honor our ancestors and ourselves in listening and in remembering, but may we also honor the earth in its relation to that, because it is very much a reflection of that relationship. And for the final direction, for the final closing of the circle, as we meet back at the southern direction here for me, because we are also going in reverse to the conjuring circle, yeah. Would also be to close with a mantra. And before my phone dies, I'm gonna wrap this. Close with a mantra. And I think when it comes to obstacles or aversions, often Vishnu is a prominent deity for that, but is also relied upon for removing of obstacles. I think our ancestors are very much that, but also the animals, also nature. And so this mantra, I think, is very much in alignment with that, regardless of belief system. May it serve you well in removing obstacles. May it remove borders. May it remove even the ways in which we drown ourselves out. Ganapatiye Namah. Gam 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 Ganapatiye Namah.
Ganapatiye Namah. Gam Ganapatiye Namah. Gam Ganapatiye Namah. That, I just realized, died. So I hope that this worked for the most part. And I hope that you can stay present in that and allow that to radiate through you as you move, and through us as we move through this life and through this experience. So party on. Mwah. And until next time, Tanadakoi.